Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. A new reality for gold and silver stackers. Let's explore! There's nothing new under the sun, or so they say, but I think those old things are certainly rearing their ugly head back to us again in an amplified manner. And sometimes those reminders or those aspects that kind of deter us from our mission can oftentimes cloud our vision. And that is the reality that we face in this day and age. There's lots of things that are happening now, I believe, that many of us have been talking about for years that were going to be coming. And I think we're closer than ever before to seeing some of those become reality. And though it may take a while for them to actually occur, I believe that when they do, they will happen so fast that we won't even be able to blink an eye before we see it. And that is the new reality. It's easy to become jaded when we say, well, where's the economic collapse? Where is the hyperinflation? Where is the currency crisis that we have been talking about for so long? Well, it's tough because no one knows exactly when or how it'll happen, or really if it will even happen the way we think. But I believe with an ever-increasing debt that has been exploding over the last year especially, and then some, we are in a better position now than ever before for some sort of a crisis to occur with our monetary system. Hence why there has been talk of a great reset, open talk about resetting our currency system globally, really. And that is a new reality that we are facing. But really, in a sense, that's been kind of hashed out before. There's been talk, and speculation of where that is going. But now we are seeing it move into overdrive as is being talked about openly in the IMF. There's other factors as well, too. I mean, we have the political realities that we are dealing with right now. And where is the winds of change shifting towards even more economic stimulus, more spending, and more deficits, higher debt, all kinds of things that really were going on even before the political change, but it's just now they're going to be even more adamant about doing it at a much quicker pace and much more dollars being created out of thin air. And so that is another reality we are facing that is just an increase of what we have been seeing in the past. Now, the other reality is alternative investments that we're seeing out there. The markets are doing well. The stock market is doing well. Surprisingly enough, it is pretty amazing to see. Most of us know that those markets are propped up, but also alternative investments that we're seeing out there, such as decentralized mediums of exchange and really investments themselves. That is the cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, has been on fire. It's broken records these days for sure. And though we have seen gold break a record in nominal prices, it is no match for the cryptocurrencies. It is no match for what Bitcoin has been doing. And so there's been people that have been abandoning, I think, in some ways, young investors that have been learning about decentralized, unregulated, at least to some extent, cryptocurrencies out there, and they're looking to what they've learned about gold and seeing where the money is actually in Bitcoin. And so we're seeing that on that basis. And obviously, silver is being left in the dust in that regard. And that could play a small role into why the ratio between gold and silver is so wide. Silver is very volatile. And Well, I've been talking about the volatility of silver and how silver has is, though it is still a hedge to some extent, it's being treated much more as a commodity these days than as that hedge, which is why you see that wide gold to silver ratio. And even now, it just can't break past 70 to 1. And I believe that reality could be with us for quite some time, even if the precious metals do go up. It's hard to imagine that silver will catch up to gold at the current pace it's going right now. Although I do believe it will narrow if we do see some massive movement or an uptrend in gold prices. But we'll see how that plays out. But we are in a new reality. We have competition, essentially, with cryptocurrencies in that regard for a decentralized option outside of the present system, so to speak. With the stock market, with mutual funds, saving bonds, and precious metals. And with many people believing that precious metal prices are manipulated, and most of them believe they're manipulated in a downward direction. And so I think it is attractive for some silver stackers and gold stackers to further diversify or maybe even abandon gold and silver. That is a new reality that we are facing these days. And of course, if there's less people putting their money in these assets and these stores of wealth, these hedges against economic instability, and finding that haven in a very risky asset such as Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, well, that's what's it's gonna reflect in the price eventually. But the thing about it, that's the new shiny object. But I tell you what, as for me, this shiny object and this shiny object are far more attractive as an insurance policy. Because one thing that is not new under the sun, and that is the history of gold and silver as a hedge against economic instability. That's what they are. That's the purpose they serve. Nothing more. They pay no dividends. They aren't there to make you money. You can't get rich off the metals themselves. The metal content contained in these particular discs that have been stamped with a particular design is what it is. And it will always be, regardless of people's views of these metals. And I think that's just it. The perception has changed and has shifted to some extent over the years as far as I've been paying attention to the metals here, especially commentating them on this channel. There's been a sort of a shift in a direction and a viewpoint of the metals, though the metals themselves do not change, and the purpose they serve do not change, no matter what. The price reflects on the perception that people have of the metals. Wrong or right, it is the way it is. That's how the market works. That's the psychology of the market. And that is something that I find somewhat fascinating, but also, in a way, discouraging, but also encouraging. Because in my mind, if the prices are low because of a negative perception of gold and silver, well, that's the time for us to buy. When a metal or anything is unloved, it provides opportunity for those of us who have sort of an everlasting love for these metals, so to speak, because we understand the history of the metals and what they do and the purpose that they serve throughout history. And none of that has changed in this new reality or in the old reality. The fundamentals of the precious metals remain strong. And so therefore, I think it is incumbent upon us as stackers out there to be open to diversify, as I've mentioned before. And nothing wrong with that. I've done it a little bit, and I'm very much risk averse. But if you put your money in anything else out there, understand the risks. Right now, Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency has reached record highs. And some are, as is usually the case, one thing that is not new under the sun is when an asset or a particular stock goes up in price, automatically all of the pundits and analysts say, well, this is just the beginning. It's going to reach this crazy high price. And inevitably what happens is it crashes. And that has never happened with gold, by the way, although people do over bloviate about the price of gold or silver, say, hey, it's reached a record high now, look out for 3,000, look out for 4,000, 5,000, $10,000 gold. So in a sense, these analysts and the perception that you get from them is the price has already risen up in your mind and then crashed back down to reality. But what's the lesson we can learn here in this new reality for gold and silver? Is that we hold it not to get rich, not to make money, but to protect ourselves against an economic instability that is out there oftentimes. And that is what it is there for, to protect us in those measures. And so that is why I don't consider gold and silver to be investments. I consider them to be a savings account, an insurance policy, if you will. And really, that's maybe even the best way to compare silver and gold, as an insurance policy. And what happens in your auto insurance, some of these companies will give you good driving rates. In other words, your rates will go down if you show that you have a good driving record. And does that mean the value of your insurance goes down? No. It means you're saving because you haven't had to use your insurance for any kind of emergency. So good driving rates are a good thing, and the value of your insurance stays the same, though the price of it has decreased because of a good driver. Same thing with gold and silver. Gold and silver under good economic times will essentially be lower in price, but the value of the metals are maintained. And so when there's economic hardship, in terms of the dollar and in terms of overall in general, these metals tend to go up in price. Gold as well as silver. But make no mistake, they are a little bit different, gold and silver are, and we've learned that, and we've accepted that new reality for silver especially, as it is more volatile, but in many ways it's always been more volatile to an extent. So it's just been, I believe, somewhat more exaggerated with the higher gold to silver ratio, which is something that I am interested in and keep track of, and I think it is important, by the way. But notwithstanding, the metals overall have maintained their purpose and as that ultimate hedge and as that insurance policy. So when I see the metal prices go down, to me that is good news, because that means the dollar is strengthening up and at least for a time, at least for a while, and giving us a reprieve to be able to accumulate more when the prices take a dip. But it's most assuredly, we have been seeing on account over the past year, both metals go up in price, and the ratio has narrowed pretty extensively since that big drop back in March of 2020. We saw a miniature version of that recently, where people run to the safety of cash. Cash is king in many ways, for sure. I've talked about that on this channel as well. And we hold on to cash in some way. There's nothing wrong with that as an emergency measure. I think it's good to have some cash on hand. But sooner or later, there's not going to be the safety to cash if they keep doing what they're doing or plan on doing what they plan on doing. You will lose that safety net as well there too. So the ultimate safety net to everything in the financial markets, the ultimate safety net is gold. The next ultimate safety net is silver. So gold and silver will continue to be what they be and will remain unchanged in the course of an historical outlook of what's been going on with different epochs, empires, generations, governments, and nation states. So we will press on with holding gold and silver in this new reality, and understanding that there may be other shiny objects in the room, most likely digital shiny objects. There's nothing wrong with experimenting and putting a little bit of money in there, as long as you know the risk involved. There's risks with everything in life, and including there's risk in buying precious metals. There's ways to buy them to mitigate your risk, but nonetheless, it is the least risky of the assets out there, in my mind, they will never go to zero, and they will maintain their value. So I hope you found this video useful. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.